Of course, our federal judges are not elected. It doesn't mean that there's not political responsibility. They're appointed by the executive branch, and the executive branch is elected. And the appointment of judges and what kinds of judges are appointed is a political issue when the presidential election takes place. But the judges themselves are not elected. And they're given life tenure. And the ideal of that system is that they will be as best they can, somewhat, in some meaningful way, divorced from the direct give and take of politics. And I think there's a certain logic to that. In Texas, our judges are elected. And they stand for election after a 4-year term. And that's district judges, it's appellate court judges, it's Supreme Court judges. Now, judges do two things. They find facts, they apply law, but they do answer new questions of law. They have the law evolve. And certainly politics is part of it, and the value system that judges bring to that is part of it. And the question is whether having voter input on those values is worthwhile or not. And I don't think that's an issue to which there's an a priori answer. Many people feel that some system of selecting judges that has a little less direct and a little less often voter input would make judges a little more independent of the immediate and local political issues. I will say that judges should be responsive to the people in a certain kind of way, and if you appear in state courts, they are often receptive to the needs of the people before them. I don't mean on the results of the cases, but they can be kinder and gentler and not divorced as much from the people that they're serving. I do think there's a legitimate concern as to whether we elect judges too often and too immediately. There are other systems that other states have tried where judges are elected but then serve longer terms, and then at the end of that term they stand or fall in a nonpartisan up or down election with no opponent. So the people can respond to a judge who has really gone off track, but it's not a partisan election at each point. In some states, judges would be appointed by the governor, but stand after a longer period of time for that up or down, but nonpartisan election. I will be frank, I don't have an answer to that question. I don't think it's a question that there is a logically correct answer to. I will say this. We have elected judges in our state, and we have a very good judicial system. It gets scrutinized in individual cases or even in individual eras, whether they're going too far one way or the other on a particular political question. But we have a very robust system of the rule of law in this state and a judicial system that serves our people well. It might be improved with one of these other systems. I think it is a very interesting issue of debate, and I think a very legitimate issue of debate. Let me just add, it is the very kind of issue that the framers were thinking about. And when they debated as to what the judicial branch ought to look like, that wasn't a 90-10 debate. It was a 60-40 debate. And they came up with a quite robust and long-serving system. But it's not the only system, and some election of judges, I think, can fit into that system, and exactly where to draw that balance, I think, is itself a very important constitutional, in the sense of constituting our practices and our institutions, a constitutional question. And I think it's healthy that some states have a system of appointing judges, and some states have a system of electing judges. And one of the concepts of federalism is that the states are laboratories for certain kinds of things, and I think we're served well by the fact that different states take different approaches and can learn from each other, and we can find out which of these systems works. But I do think there's a quite large spectrum of different approaches, all of which can work, as long as there is a tradition of respecting the judiciary and respecting the jury system and respecting the rule of law. And that is what our constitutional system is about. And it's that part that needs to be preserved, whatever the particular approach taken in an individual state.